Is there anything worse than working extremely hard and thinking that you're making money when in reality, you're not? When it comes to business, I really don't think that there is anything worse than this. And I can't tell you how many times Amazon sellers have personally told me that they thought they were making a killing selling on Amazon, but when it came down to their net profit, they really weren't making much at all. And this actually came as a surprise to them, and they thought they were making much more. If this is a problem that you too are encountering, let me tell you why. Now, I think every seller understands their cost of goods, actually purchasing the products that you're selling and taking into account that expense. But there are so many other expenses when it comes to selling on Amazon. And if you are not taking into account every single little expense, you might think you are much more profitable than you actually are. So in this video, I'm going to break down all of the most common profit killers. This way, you know better. In the end, you'll be able to have a very, very accurate measure of how profitable you are because you'll know about these profit killers and all of the expenses that come when you're calculating your bottom dollar. So this is definitely a video that you're not going to want to miss, and it is going to be jam-packed of very valuable information. And you're definitely going to want to stay until the very end because I'm going to share with you the easiest way that I'm able to calculate every tiny little expense, and it's very, very quick and easy to do. But first, if you're new here, I'm Cassandra, and right here on this channel, I do my favorite thing each and every week, and that is talk about Amazon. So if you're interested in starting or scaling your own Amazon FBA business, make sure that you hit that subscribe button because this is the place to be to learn everything Amazon FBA related. Now here's what typically happens. New sellers understand that they have their actual cost of goods and shipping to Amazon. So a lot of sellers make the mistake of thinking that those are really their expenses, when in reality, there is a huge laundry list of possible expenses that you have to be taking into account when it comes to figuring out your actual net profit. So here we go. Here is my huge laundry list of all of the expenses that you have to be thinking about. And don't get overwhelmed when you hear just how many there are and think to yourself, how am I going to keep track of all of this? Because like I mentioned a minute ago, I'm going to show you at the end of this video how I'm able to manage all of my expenses and make sure that I'm actually profitable when selling on Amazon. So we have the first two expenses out of the way. That's the actual cost of goods that you had to pay to get your product. And then if you're doing FBA, you also have to pay to ship those products to the Amazon warehouse. A lot of people ask me how much to figure per unit when shipping to Amazon. And that really is going to depend on several different factors. My general rule of thumb is I know my box cannot exceed 50 pounds unless the product itself exceeds that much. But typically that's not the case. So I know my box can't go over 50 pounds. And that means the smaller my items are, the more I can fit into that box. Because typically, on average, a box that is pushing 50 pounds costs me on average $15 to $20. So if I can only fit 3 units into that box for that price, then the cost per shipping each unit is significantly higher. But if I can fit several small and light units into that box, let's say 100 of them, then the cost per unit is significantly less. The third expense that you have to take into account is your landing cost. What is it going to cost you to get your products from your manufacturer or your distributor to you? This is in addition to shipping those products to Amazon. First, you have to get those products in your hands to be able to prep and list. So that has to be taken into account on your expenses. The fourth expense is the prepping. If you're going to be prepping these items and putting money into them to bubble wrap them, to package them, to put them into boxes, well, that's money coming out of your profit that you have to take account for. So if you're prepping the products on your own, the expenses would be your scale, your tape, your boxes, your tape measure, your bubble wrap, your labels. And if you're using a prep center, then that is obviously a really big profit killer, but one that is beneficial because it's going to free up your time to be able to find more products to sell. But you definitely are going to want to think about how much it's going to cost you to pay a prep center to prep each unit. Because depending on what it is, it's probably going to cost a different amount. So for example, if you're selling a bundle of 3 products and after the cost of goods and shipping it to you and shipping it to Amazon, you should be making, let's say, $4 profit every time one sells. Well, what about what they're going to charge you to prep this? Because it's a bundle and there are several different pieces in there and it's probably going to need its own box, that's going to typically, on average, I'm going to say cost at least $2 per unit to prep. So that right there just cut your profit in half. Now, each time you sell one, you're only making $2. And we still have several other profit killers to talk about that are going to work into that number. Which leads me nicely into the 5th profit killer, and that is Amazon. They are covered with fees that they're going to charge you. You're using a really great marketplace and really great services. So obviously these do come with a price. And the huge bulk of expenses here per unit that you sell is going to include a referral fee, a storage fee, a fulfillment fee, and if your product doesn't sell quickly, that storage fee is going to increase and turn into a long-term storage fee. Another expense from Amazon could include removal or disposal fees. Say something goes wrong with your product and you have to remove it or ship it back to you or dispose of it. That's going to cost you. And this doesn't happen a lot, but it's something that you very well could run into, and that is lost and damaged inventory. If that happens, you're definitely going to want to put that in your expense sheet and keep track of that for the month, because that is going to be a huge profit killer, God forbid, if it happens. Number 6, this one is a big one and it's really important, and it's a make or break one that a lot of people don't think about. I had a friend who put in a ton of hours each week finding products to sell on Amazon. He was doing arbitrage and he really worked it, and he spent a lot of money buying products to resell. He thought he was being profitable. And one day when he really took a fine nitty-gritty look, there was something that was eating all of his profit. And that was subscription charges. Now, obviously, there are some different software and subscriptions that you have to sell on Amazon. For example, your pro selling account with Amazon. That right there is going to cost you nearly $40 per month. Then we have a ton of different software, which each of them on their own probably function a little different and can help you find products. But if you invest in all of them, it is going to be a huge profit killer, because there are just way too many software out there that do in and of itself the same thing. For example, I have to put a little plug in here. We have ProfitGuru software, which does pretty much the same thing that SellerAmp does, plus a little more. So why subscribe to both when in the end, that's going to cut into your bottom dollar? And clearly there are dozens of other paid software out there. So if you are making a paid subscription to all of these, that is really going to add up. And it's something that you have to be writing those numbers down in your expenses. The 7th expense, which might not be applicable to everybody, and it might not be something that people think about at all, but it is an expense. If you are doing retail arbitrage where you are going inside of stores, how did you get there? That cost you gas. So something like that, if you're traveling around a lot to different places, that's an expense. Keep track of it. Your gas, your mileage. Maybe you're staying at hotels. Maybe you're eating out while you're doing these things. Write those numbers down. The 8th profit killer are expenses associated to doing private labeling. So if you are manufacturing your own products, you're putting your own brand on them, then obviously it's going to cost you more to do this. Some expenses that you might have to take into account would include maybe some services that you might want to pay for. When you're setting up a listing, you want it done the right way. So maybe you're paying for some help with making sure your listing is SEO optimized, or making sure that you have really amazing photographs. And most definitely, if it's a new brand that you're bringing to the market, a huge expense is going to be your ad campaigns. That right there is going to eat a ton of your profit. So that's a number that you definitely have to keep track of and make sure it doesn't get too high. And the 9th expense that you have to keep track of is returns and refunds, especially if it's something that is no longer sellable and it just can't go back on the shelf to be sold again. That's cutting into your bottom dollar, and you have to keep track of those returns. I know, that was a lot. And you might have some products that you sell where maybe only a few of these expenses are going to apply to, and you might have others where this entire laundry list might apply to. So that's also why it's important to not just keep track of your overall monthly expenses, but to also keep track of the expenses per product that you're selling. And now you might be wondering, well, Cassandra, that was a lot of expenses. How can I possibly keep track of all of that and stay sane? Lucky for you, there is a very easy way to do that, and I'm going to show you right now. If you know me, then this might not come as a surprise. How I'm able to keep such good track of my expenses is with SellerBoard. Now, you've probably already heard me talk about SellerBoard because I think so highly of the software. But if you have not heard of SellerBoard yet and you're not sure how to use it, I'm going to link a video above that explains everything about it. But for right now, we are just worried about tracking those profit killers. So we're going to come right over here to expenses and click. And right here is where we are going to easily add all of those expenses we were talking about, so we make sure in the end our net profit is what we expect. So once you do have your huge laundry list of expenses, it's so easy to filter and find them. We can come right here and filter expenses by date. So maybe we're looking at one particular month in general, our overall expenses, or maybe we want to narrow that down to a specific time frame. If we're curious about one expense in general and we want to know how much our business has paid on that, we can even search in the name right here, and then we can see that huge list of expenses for that one particular item. And we can also filter this by product. So if we come here to all products, every single product that you have is going to show up. So if you're curious in general about the expenses from one product to another, maybe I just want to know the expenses for this gift box, I can click on it and boom. Every single expense that I'm going to input is going to be right there. So it's so easy to see how much money I'm actually making after all of the profit killers are taking into account. And then if you're selling on different marketplaces, you can even filter it per marketplace to see your expenses and profits on each different one. Now, what's really cool is maybe you already are tracking your profits somehow. I hope so. So maybe you're using a Google Sheet or maybe an Excel sheet. Regardless of what you're using, if you already have a template set up with your expenses in there, you can come right down here to the bottom and hit import. So easy to do, but what you first need to do is come here and download the templates so that way you can configure the different columns so that they're set up to match what you already have set up. Then you'll select your file and import it. And you can also export your expenses. So maybe you have partners that you're working with, you can export it to them, or maybe your accountants need to see your expenses. Click that export button, and then it's going to download it right there for you to send out. Now, to add all of these expenses in, it's so easy to do. Especially if you have reoccurring expenses, you're not going to have to put them in every single month. You can set it up so that they're automatically going to be taken into account. So we can scroll all the way down to the bottom, and right here at the bottom, we can add a new expense that way. But my favorite way to do it is right here at the very bottom, the add button. So when you add an expense in, you're going to be able to dictate and show exactly when to take that into account. So maybe it's something where a software fee that comes out every 10th of the month. You'll be able to set that for the 10th and to have it just come out every single month. And you can also drill down the expenses to the product level. So if that particular expense only applies to one product, you're going to search for that product and apply the expense to that one product. Now, what's really cool that I like is if you have a lot of large expenses, like maybe your warehouse fees or your prepping fees, if you're using a prep center, that might cost you a few $1,000s per month. So if you're checking in each day to see how profitable you are, things might look good. And then when you had it trigger to take that expense out, boom, now you're down $3,000. So that can make things look a little confusing and funny when that happens all at once. So something cool that you can do is make it so large expenses like that are taken out gradually each day so that you don't just see $3,000 gone in one day. It will apply that smaller into doses each day. So little by little, it's configured in rather than all at once. just to help you keep a better track of your true profits when you're checking in real quick on your dashboard. Now, maybe you had an expense that is no longer an expense for you. So to delete that, it's very easy. Right here under Actions, we're going to click right where we see the 3 lines. So if this tax consultant expense, I don't have that anymore, I'm going to click and delete that expense. Super easy. So this makes it so easy. I don't have to mess around with sheets anymore and looking at 20 different things when I'm trying to figure out if a product is actually profitable. Every single expense that I have, I throw into here, whether it's a one-time expense or a reoccurring expense, and it's going to keep track of it. This way, when I want to see my actual net profit, when all of these profit killers are already taken into account, I can see that very easily. And I'm not going to be blindsided and taken off guard when I think I'm making money, and then after everything, I'm actually not. So I hope that this makes sense and you can see why it's so important, because there's just such a magnitude of different expenses that we encounter. And if we're not deliberately making sure to keep track of each one, then we might think we're making more money than we actually are. And like I said to open up this video, there's nothing worse than working hard and thinking you're making money when you're actually not. Now, if you're using this expenses tab, you're not going to have to worry about that. So there you have it. There's my huge laundry list of all of the different profit killers, aka expenses, that you're going to have to really keep good track of if you want a good, accurate measure of your net profit. You don't want to be one of those sellers who thinks they're profitable, and then when they take the time to really look at their numbers, they're not profitable. Do yourself a favor, get yourself SellerBoard so that you can have a way to quickly and easily manage your expenses and stay in the green. They offer a 1-month free trial. So if you have not already signed up, I'm going to put a link down below because you're not going to regret using SellerBoard. It's going to help you with your business so much and keep you on track of everything. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you stayed with me this far, I really appreciate you. If you could do me one more quick favor, make sure that you're subscribed and hit the like button for this video. I would really appreciate it. That's all for this one, and I'll catch you in the next video.